Let's begin with security matters, shall we? Shah Udu Alku, a close associate of the notorious terrorist kingpin Bello Turji, has been confirmed killed in a targeted airstrike in Sokoto State. The operation, carried out by the air component of Operation Fasan Yama, struck a terrorist hideout near Tunfa Primary School in Isa local government area of Sokoto State on Sunday. The Nigerian Armed Forces confirmed that Alku, a key link in cross-border terrorist logistics, was killed alongside several fighters and suspected high-ranking commanders. According to intelligence reports, Alku had crossed into Nigeria from Niger Republic to attend a clandestine strategy meeting convened by Turji's network. The statement added that mop-up operations were ongoing and efforts are being intensified to apprehend fleeing terrorists. In the meantime, tension has escalated in Okoloke, Kogi State, after suspected bandits killed 3 people and demanded 12 million naira ransom for an adopted monarch. Dada James Ogunyade, a Nigerian ruler, was kidnapped from his palace on Thursday. On Saturday, 2 vigilantes and a telecoms worker inspecting a mast were shot dead by the assailants. The bandits had earlier demanded 100 million naira, later reduced to 12 million naira after being told of the monarch's poor health. A community resident expressed outrage over government inaction and the absence of police presence. Local officials say rescue efforts are underway, but the Kogi State Police Command has yet to comment on the killings. Meanwhile, suspected bandits have attacked Waje community in Danko, Wasagu local government area of Kebbi State, killing 15 farmers and injuring 3 others. The state's department governor, Senator Umar, the state's deputy governor, I beg your pardon, Senator Umar Tafida, led a condolence visit to the district head, offering words of comfort and financial support to the grieving families on behalf of Governor Nasir Idris. Describing the gesture as a modest show of solidarity, Tafida pledged continued government support. District head Honorable Bala Dambaba praised the visit and called for stronger security, noting the area's vulnerability due to its proximity to Niger, Zamfara and Sokoto states. The local government chairman confirmed the casualty figures. Still on security, a significant number of families, mainly women and children who were displaced by terrorist attacks, have returned to their hometowns in the Mate local government area of Borno State. This follows the return of peace to the area. News Central's Umar Kirawa has the story.
The recent attack on Marte facility, among others, burned down to ashes. Families were displaced because of recent threats. A grandmother of 7, Zainab Abacha, alongside other family members, returned back to Marte from Dikwa, about 24 kilometers in northern Borno.
A significant number of families, along with women and children who have been displaced by terrorist attacks, now return to their hometown Marte local government area in Borno State as peace takes root in their community.
Audu mani anda ala lar ndero cherunguwa nilefa nguwa sama suudu ala kamande ya rabi burama ala adama dano gonduri sama ishena dundi roksale tumale zemba shiro sama so chade iskuna sama bune fara tujim ishena yawa bare nyana adanda ngudo ejo fulata ejo kumar kana ndi angudo ya ji kwarle nyana ma guyen na ba yen na ba ade rafa ndere kede ku ishena da mai na ida isuwa ma andere kan guda yubuye. Alhamdulillah askarnyana kwa kudiyar commander matumanye.
With the pain of the terror attack, the battle to maintain peace is still ongoing in towns and villages affected.
About 20,000 people have left Marte to Dikwa. This is very obnoxious to the government, to the federal government, as well as the state government. Because this huge number of people is a threat on itself. But alhamdulillah, we came back home. And then yesterday we spent a night here, you have seen, with the support of the Nigerian army, with the support of our gallant civilian jet hunters and vigilante. We are back here in Marte, and then the communities are now resettled for the second time now.
Authorities maintain that living communities deserted will further make the area vulnerable to infiltration and planting of improvised explosive devices by terrorists.
So far so good. You have seen we have strengthened the resilience of the community. We have increased the numbers of civilian jet hunters and vigilante in order to complement the efforts of the Nigerian army. The Nigerian army has also increased the workforce that are residing in this town, and we have taken many measures that need not to be explained here because it's a security matter.
Despite persistent security challenges, the rural dwellers show resilience to withstand the heat, particularly with support from authorities. In Marte, for News Central, Morikirawa.
Governor Uba Sani of Kaduna State has said that poverty and economic exclusion are the root causes of insecurity in northern Nigeria, warning that unless they are addressed holistically, the region will continue to face unrest. Sani said his administration began with a data-driven focus on poverty and underdevelopment, drawing on his experience as a former chairman of the Senate Committee on Banking. According to him, more than 60 to 65% of people in the northern region, especially in the northwest, were financially excluded when he assumed office. This, he said, made many young people vulnerable to recruitment by armed groups. And now to discuss this, we're joined by former National Coordinator, Middle Belt Patriots, Zariyi Yusuf, and also public affairs analyst Ismail Awal. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you for coming on. Multidimensional poverty, very prevalent in northern Nigeria. How does this contribute directly or indirectly to the rising insecurity numbers that we're seeing, such as banditry, kidnapping, and terrorism? Let me start with you, Mr. Yusuf.
Well, thank you so much. I must say it's a privilege to be here once again. Trying to find a common ground between unemployment, say what you rightly put as multidimensional poverty, which one will not argue has actually eaten deep into this region of the country, but then trying to balance that with what we would refer to as insecurity as far as Nigeria is concerned today. I do not think it x-rays the problem we are dealing with. The simple reason is because multidimensional poverty is not a sole reserve of the northern part of the country. Unemployment, economic exclusion, or whatsoever it is. When you particularly itemize these issues, you would discover that there might actually be certain other groups who should have had a justification or whatsoever to engage in criminalities or in terrorism or in basically what has accounted for most of what we would term as insecurity. We are not talking about social vices such as snatching of phones. We are not talking about maybe burgling homes when people have gone to work and all of that. We are dealing with an organized, well-armed group, basically, whose sole motivation is ideological in a way. So while we will not argue that unemployment, political exclusion could actually make people in a way susceptible to joining all kinds of criminalities, but the subject of insecurity in Nigeria cannot basically be traced to let's say what we refer to as poverty. I don't know, but in Nigeria, actually, as a country, our conventional army has not primarily engaged in any conventional war in the past decade, other than the counter-insurgency measures. It's important to ask, Have we ever employed any technology such as the use of armed drones? We've never done that. So when you look at I'd say the sophistication of what basically accounts for insecurity, it is not something we could connect with basically poverty or economic exclusion.
All right.
Unfortunately,
let me
there are other reasons. Yes.
Right. Let me come to Mr. Ishmael Awal and ask. I mean, the role of youth and unemployment is one factor that we have to look at in this escalating violence and extremism in the region. Can there be an intersection between the two, that unemployment, youth unemployment in the north is also part of the reason that is driving the escalating violence and extremism in the region as well?
Well, thank you very much for having me once again. I actually belong to the school of thought that believes that security is an economic variable. And if we agree that security is an economic variable, then we definitely believe that issues like unemployment, just like you mentioned, provide poverty, lack of education, provides a fertile ground for violent groups actually to grow in any particular region, not only in Nigeria and not in Africa, everywhere in the world. If you look at the subject is Kaduna. Look at the the poverty index of Kaduna. Then look at also the rate of unemployment in Kaduna. So I actually believe that poverty, unemployment, of course, if we are talking about unemployment, at the end, unemployment will cycle back to poverty, because when you're unemployed, you're going to be poor. And we all know that man must eat. And if somebody cannot find a means to provide for himself and for his family, unless if there's a very strong restraint or that person is educated, which also is very unlikely, because you see poverty and a lack of education rather are interconnected. So I actually believe that poverty and unemployment provide a fertile ground for these terrorists to employ or to recruit young people, which at the long run fuels insecurity in the northwest and northeastern region of Nigeria.
All right. Mr. Yusuf, Zari Yusuf, earlier you were saying that, Nigeria has, in spite of their concerted efforts when it comes to insurgency, the fight against insurgency and insecurity in the north, there are still other parts that are left behind, and one of them is the fight against drug proliferation and small arms. And so I do have to ask, do you think that decentralization or more state-level autonomy could help tackle the poverty-security nexus more effectively?
Well, yes. Before I could directly address that question, I would want to just emphasize again that the problem of insecurity in Nigeria is ideological, basically. It's just an issue we would have to come to terms with, because if we do not come to terms with it, we would misdiagnose it. We would go politically correct about it. When Boko Haram first emerged, they said its economics is hardship and all of that. The economic hardship in the northeast is the same you find in the north-south and all of that. Of the last couple of months, I think the death toll, I would say, in any conflict that kills civilians on the African continent kept happening on the plateau. Basically, would we say it's because of economic hardship when people go to farms and they can't access it again and all of that? So there is a serious ideological issue, and that would be Islamism, which basically it's all kinds of people that stand against it. So if we want to tie that to poverty, it will look as if once we are able to solve that, then it simply means we cannot have we would not have that security challenge, which basically is not true. But with regards to decentralizing and having state policing, I think one of the reasons why I think there have been conversations in that line before now, but you would realize, I don't know if it's from the state governments or from the federal government, but there seems to be a certain kind of reluctance. And if you would go by, I think an interview the boss of the DSS granted at some point, I think it came from a good understanding that whether we accept it or not, the pattern of warfare that is being waged against the military, against civilians, is not the conventional kind that we could say the military will go in and engage. So there would be the great necessity, there is that necessity for the approach to be local. So yes, decentralizing will help deal with the challenge. But unless we come to terms with the fact that we are dealing with a satanic ideology that would have nothing to do with whether the economic issues in the country are solved or not, we will just be beating around the bush. And like I said, the employment of AK-47, rocket-propelled grenades, armed drones, and all of that is definitely not a conflict or a form of insecurity that we could connect with poverty. It's a different kind of ideology. And well, maybe as a symptom, money could be used, to entice people into it. But at the core of it, it's not poverty. And decentralizing the security. Yeah.
All right.
Go ahead.
All right. I was going to ask Ismail if he also toes the same thought line as you do regarding insecurity, that in the north, one of the key cause of it, or the contributing factor that we're seeing here and we're all overlooking, is the ideology as an ideological issue in the north. Do you agree that it's religion?
100%. I actually agree with Zaria Yusuf. 100% is I agree. It's ideological problem. Of course, when you if you go look at how Boko Haram started, we are definitely not going to say Muhammad Yusuf started Boko Haram because he is poor. Muhammad Yusuf was not poor. But the point here is that's why during my first, I mentioned fuel. What poverty and unemployment does to insecurity is, it's like it adds fuels to it. It make it like there's an appeal for I agree. There is issue of ideology, and that's why Northern Nigeria provides a fertile ground for insecurity to grow. So I 100% agree. Yes, there is an ideological problem tied to Boko Haram.
All right. I mean, gentlemen, gentlemen, I wish we could continue, but this is where we have to close the curtain. There's so much that's going on in the north, and we do hope that conversations like this would continue, and also leaders, or when I mean by leader, I mean the ruling elite of the north, will come together and start to discuss and not really shy away from what really is the issue in the north. I must say thank you to you, Ismail Awal, and also to you as well, Zaria Yusuf, for taking out the time to join us. Let's go on a short break, shall we? When we return, the Federal High Court redeploys 5 judges over NJC sanctions. We'll tell you all about this and more after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. And now to politics. Kaduna State's Labour Party, Jare South chapter, has dismissed claims that Senator Nanadi Esther Usman is no longer a member or a party member. At a press briefing on Sunday at Father Polling Unit 006, Ward Chairman Hussaini Lawal and other executives labeled the allegations false, malicious, and politically motivated. Lawal confirmed that Senator Usman remains a fully registered bona fide member of the Labour Party in Jare Ward, with her polling unit officially recorded as Unit 006.
Senator Nanadi Usman is a fully registered and bona fide member of the Labour Party in Jare South Wards, with her polling units clearly documented at polling unit 006 on Gampada, Kagarko, Jare South Wards. Any claim, suggestion otherwise is false, malicious, and politically motivated. We have her membership records, and we stand firmly by this fact. Senator Nanadi Usman's membership is not in question. Our party records clear, and we challenge anybody or anyone with contrary claim to present their facts. We will not allow political mischief makers to contract us from our goals to building a stronger and more progressive Nigeria under the great party, Labour Party.
On to judicial matters. Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, Justice John Soho, has announced the redeployment of 5 judges with immediate effect. The court disclosed that 6 judicial officers were affected by the decision. The judges include Justice M.G. Umar from the Enugu Judicial Division, who has now been reassigned to the Abuja Division, while Justice Tijani Garba Ringim has been transferred from Gombe to Yola. Similarly, Justice Shegun Bello, previously serving in the Agla Division, has been moved to Enugu, and Justice Bala Khalifa Mohammed Usman has been reassigned from Yola to the Akwa Division, Oka Division, I beg your pardon, while Justice Amina Aliyu Mohammed will take over in the Gombe Division after her redeployment from Oka. She assured litigants and lawyers that there is no need to worry about their cases before Justice Ekwo's court, whose suspension stemmed from allegations of delivering rulings without hearing the parties involved. Other judges who got suspended by the NJC includes Justice Aminu Bafa Aliyu of the Zamfara Division for 1 year without pay, placing him on a 3-year watch list, during which he is barred from elevation. Dozens of residents from the Kappa community in Kaduna have staged a peaceful protest on Monday at the Kaduna refinery to draw attention to the government's apparent silence over the destruction of their farmlands caused by benzene chemical leaks since August last year. The demonstrators, whose livelihoods depend heavily on agriculture, are demanding urgent compensation and a resolution to the issue, which they say has been neglected for too long. Last August, residents of the community told News Central that the company promised to compensate them for the chemical that destroyed their farms and other properties, with no action to back up the promise. The protesters have resorted to blocking the refinery gates to get their voices heard and their demands met. Away from that, one of the construction workers trapped under the rubble of the collapsed building at Idiaraba in the Mushin area of Lagos State has been recovered dead. The one-story building, which was under construction, came down around 3:30 p.m. on Sunday, trapping an unspecified number of people beneath the debris. The coordinator of the National Emergency Management Agency, Lagos Territorial Office, Ibrahim Barinloye, confirmed the development in the statement. 3 persons has been rescued while efforts were ongoing to reach others still trapped. Our correspondent Agla Keikel was at the scene of the incident, and here's his update.
We're here at Mushin Idiaraba, to be precise. This is number 96 Ishaga Road, and just behind me you can see the rubbles of a collapsed building. It's said to be a one-story building given to a developer. It's still under construction at the time it's collapsed. Moreover, the developer, according to information we got, decided to add one more layer of a story on it. And if you look at this iron rod that is being used to power, if I can use that word, or to lift an extra deck of building on it, you can see the texture. I can feel it here. You can't feel it, but of course I can see it here, that we want to put an extra layer of building on, and some people are saying that's the reason why the building collapsed. What happened yesterday is that this very building collapsed around after 3 yesterday. After 3, I was throwing my friend to the bus stop when I heard the building collapse of the building here. But I think part of what caused the collapse of the building is due to the inferior materials used from the foundation, because it's a 2-story building. The building is 2-story and it's still under construction. So from the foundation, foundations, the rod and everything that's very much inferior to what is expected to be used. Then once there's a call, because of many people here, the LRU the LRU officials come to try and rescue people. The SHEMU, the Nigeria Police Force, and other sister agencies are much more on. Everybody live there around 10:30 in the night or less than night. So 3 people are rescued alive. One was them as at the time of rescue. So the SHEMU people come to evacuate the corpse to the The first developer that started the house, well, maybe it's a money problem between the families or whatever thing. You just notice that they have left the foundation for more than 5 years as at a foundation level then, before they come bring another developer. That one just come and begin to do skeleton pillars and beams. I even told my colleague that this house is very, very dangerous the way they are doing it until yesterday that the house is collapsed.
Do we know if at any point in time Lagos State officials, maybe building control agency, did you see them around coming to inspect the building or the work?
No, I didn't see them, but I saw they are rating things as they used to do. LAPSCA with the date of occupancy. I've never set my eyes on them, but I saw their handwriting or the thing that they used to cover the place. Immediately the thing happened, they all gathered here yesterday for the rescue of the people that injured.
Let's head to Edo State, where the Ishan Northeast Anti-Kidnapping Unit in Uromi has raised an alarm over the high rate of drug abuse being witnessed within the town. The patron of the Anti-Kidnapping Unit, Andrew Akboka, spoke exclusively to News Central Television in Uromi, saying that the buying and selling of drugs within the township has become a big business being practiced by many, including youths and hotels, without any form of restraint. Akboka adds that the unit has arrested several drug peddlers in the past and handed them over to the police, yet none has been persecuted. He blames illicit drug use for the high rate of crime in the town, saying that it fuels violent crimes and kidnappings, and calls on the federal and state government to act decisively to end the menace.
Is the biggest, number one, after drug, kidnapping. The problem we have in town now, after drug, kidnapping. Anything you do revolve around drug. Not big bow at the top. This one they call it bow. What I call India. The one they say is loud. The one they say is colos, ice. All those drugs, they are a billion business in Uromi. Okay. If there is hardly any hotel in Uromi where drug is not being sold freely, I can swear to that. So we are fast losing hope. We are even thinking we are no longer part of this system because nothing works here. When I say nothing works here, I mean as regards law enforcement, it's like NDLEA does not exist.
Hey, welcome back. The Economic and Financial, the Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF, the South African political party formed in 2013 by former African National Congress and ANC member Julius Malema, is leading a march in the capital, Pretoria. It's called a VAT victory march to the National Treasury. The demonstration follows the Western Cape High Court's decision to suspend the proposed VAT increase and set aside the 2025 fiscal framework and revenue proposals. Meanwhile, the protest comes days before Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana will deliver the national budget. This would be the third time that he will deliver the budget this year. Latest updates from Sudan says 9 persons, including 7 military personnel, have been killed and 14 others injured in a drone attack on a camp belonging to the Sudan Shield Forces in the Al-Butana plain areas. Now, the Sudan Shield Forces, which are based in the Al-Butana areas of Al-Jazirah and Gedaraf states, fight alongside the Sudanese army. The commander defected from the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF, in October of 2024. a move that helped the army and its allies regain control of Al-Jazirah state and most of Khartoum's state. A statement posted on the official Facebook page of the Sudan Shield Forces said the drone attack targeted facilities at their camp at Jabal Al-Abaytor in the central Al-Butana. King Ugiame Otuashe III, the Olu of Warri, over the weekend met with the King Musuzuli Kwazuliniti of the Zulu Nation in South Africa, where they both signed a symbolic pledge of cooperation between the Shekiri people of Nigeria and the Zulu people of South Africa. The pledge was signed at the palace during the Nigerian delegation's visit. In his speech to welcome the delegation of the Nigerian Kingdom, the king said the visit was far more than a ceremonial visit. It was a sacred reawakening of ancestral bonds between the Zulu nation and the Shekiri people. Both royals affirmed to build trade bridges, cultural platforms, and sustainable partnerships that benefit their people. And now to discuss this, we're joined by religion and culture expert, Professor Musa Zwalu. Professor, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate you for coming on. Let's just get started, shall we? What was the main purpose of the meeting between the two royals?
Well, good afternoon, my sister and your viewers. It was a very important milestone for the two kingdoms to come together. You must remember that in terms of the Pan-Africanism, for example, and in terms of the desire for Africa to rise up again, which is also being driven by, among others, the state of the African diaspora. So when these kingdoms come together, the big one from South Africa, the Zulu kingdom, the biggest kingdom here, especially also in the southern part of Africa, and one of the bigger kingdoms from West Africa, it became very important that a deal is signed so that they can be able to establish, through an MOU, some working relations to build the two nations.
And how significant is this meeting for cultural collaboration and diplomatic relations between the two communities, given all that's been happening with South African-Nigeria relations?
Well, it becomes important. You know, collaboration. The Zulu Kingdom, for example, has a large tract of land, about 3 million square miles. And if you look at that, which is ready for example, for investment in terms of agriculture and other forms of development, it would be a good thing for some investors, say from Nigeria, for example, and other parts of Africa and the African diaspora, could visit the Zulu Kingdom and start establishing some economic ties with the kingdom. And I think King Misuzulu Kazolitini, the reigning king, is very clear on wanting to see development in the tract of land that has been bestowed upon him and the Zulu people by the South African government.
Are there any specific outcomes or agreements that resulted from this meeting?
Well, the agreements were primarily on the cultural exchange, the need for continuous cultural exchanges between the two kingdoms. And to that effect, for example, King Misuzulu has been invited to come to Nigeria in August next year. That's cultural, and of course to look at how investors from the Zulu Kingdom and the kingdom in Nigeria can come together and be able to look at development going forward. The third way, of course, of looking at it is how to rebuild, collaborate in the rebuilding of Africa. We know colonialism has failed, but what also has happened is that the post-colonial settlement has not really reinstated the kingdoms to their rightful place as it was before the colonialists came here. So this is a good start to look at how the kings on the continent can stand up for restoration and restitution of their land and artifacts and everything, so that we can begin to look at more localized on the continent development, driven by investors on the continent. Right. It's for me, it's one of the biggest events that took place this year in the Zulu Kingdom.
Many thanks, Professor, and we can't wait for the Shekiri people to welcome His Royal Highness back to Nigeria here for a return visit. We appreciate you for coming on, and thank you for doing this with us. Professor Musa Zulu there giving us a bit of insight following the Shekiri King's visit to the Zulu land. U.S. President Donald Trump is scheduled to speak with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Monday to discuss efforts towards achieving peace in Ukraine. The discussions or conversations comes as European leaders urge the Kremlin to agree to an immediate ceasefire to end the deadliest conflict in Europe since World War II. The war, initiated by Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February of 2022, has led to a prolonged standoff between Russia and the West. Trump, positioning himself as a peacemaker, has pushed for renewed negotiations, prompting recent talks in Istanbul between Russian and Ukrainian representatives. As part of a broader diplomatic effort, Trump plans to engage with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and NATO leaders while signaling potential further sanctions against Russia. For more on this, I'm joined by international correspondent Afia Hagen. Afia, interesting times. What's the latest from the front line in Russia and Ukraine war? Let's start there.
Yes, interesting times indeed. Now, despite the fact that this phone call was scheduled between Vladimir Putin and US President Donald Trump, and that everybody involved is looking forward to peace, over the weekend in the Ukraine, you had 273 drones fired from Saturday night into Sunday. You were 2 killed and 13 injured over the past day in the Ukraine. 76 of those drones I mentioned were shot down, some by electronic jamming, some by missile fire themselves. And so even in the guise or in this sphere where we are, that peace talks are supposed to be progressing, the offensive on Ukraine continues, and you still have more people dying into the weekend and even into this morning.
And Trump and Putin were due to speak at 3 p.m. UK and Lagos time. What can we expect when it happens? I mean, 3 p.m. is past now.
Yes, 3 p.m. has passed now. Just before 3 p.m., the White House was saying that call was due to start in a few minutes. And then just after 3, about 10 past 3, Ukrainian officials have been saying that Zelensky has spoken to Trump today. Now, we know that Zelensky was supposed to speak to Trump after the phone call between Putin and Trump. So we don't know if the phone call between Putin and Trump has happened or not. So we're waiting to see how that plays out over the next hour or so. But, it's a big day in the diplomatic sphere, absolutely. Trump is expected to put it to Putin to really ask him if he is serious about these peace talks. Is this something that he really, really wants? Trump has said on social media over the weekend that he's optimistic for a productive day, that he wants, peace to come. He wants this war to end. But the US have also iterated that they are not in this forever. They're not going to be in this for the long game. And this is something that they would like tied up as soon as possible. And yes, it's going to be on which side are we going to get today? It's really about the leaders, whether that's Zelensky or whether that's Putin, finding Trump on their side. Who can impress him the most today, and what iteration of Trump are we going to get? Because sometimes he seems to be more on the Ukrainian side, and sometimes he seems to be more on the Putin side. So it's also going to be about which version of Trump are we going to get today.
And for a person that doesn't stick to scripts, only in a few hours we'll find out who he will be. Afia, many thanks for coming on. Appreciate you for coming on. We can't wait to speak to you at 6 when we get more on this info, on the latest. Nigeria's Quadri Aruna has advanced to the 3rd round of the men's singles at the 2025 ITTF World Championships in Doha, becoming Africa's sole male contender left in the event. Aruna overcame a stiff challenge from Norway's Borge Haug, winning 4-2 in a gripping 6-set match. While Aruna moved forward, Egypt's Omar Assar exited after a 4-3 loss to Portugal's Marcos Freitas, and Madagascar's Hanitra Haramanana, who bowed out in the women's singles. In mixed doubles, Nigeria's Omotayo and Ayola were eliminated. Aruna now faces Germany's Bernadette Duda in the next round, carrying the hopes of an entire continent in the global championship. And may the force be in his favor. Head coach of the newly crowned Nigeria's Women's Football League champions, White Obunda, has confirmed the technical crew's focus will shift immediately to the continental stage. The title-winning coach spoke about this earlier in the sports show and the game. Take a look.
Yeah, I think we just came back to, after the Super Six that were won in Guinea, I think to represent Nigeria in the CAF Women's Champions League, CAF B first and foremost before talking about the CAF Cup. I think we just got back to Yeneboa yesterday, so I think the player, we asked them to have a breather, let them take some rest, and after that, though me as a coach and the technical crew and the management of the team, we are still working to ensure that we have a good competition in the CAF B qualifier first and foremost. I think first we have to look at what we have here in Bayelsa Queen, look at the great area. We had a problem in the competition.
Also, Queens secured the 2024-2025 NWFL title with a commanding 4-1 victory over Niger Rattles. The triumph, coupled with dropped points from rivals Edo Queens and Remo Star Ladies, sealed their championship. Edo played out a goalless draw with Nasarawa Amazons, while Remo Stars lost 2-1 to Rivers Angels. Bayelsa Queens finished top of the Super 6 playoff with 10 points from 5 matches. Well, congratulations to the ladies again. And that's all we can take at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. Nigerian Army has killed top insurgents in targeted airstrikes as fight against terrorism intensifies. The Federal High Court has redeployed 5 judges over NJC sanctions. And we also told you that drone attacks killed 9, injured 14 at Shield Forces camp in Sudan. Now do remember they can send us your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing on the screen. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV on all social media platforms. You can always watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Go TV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and live on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Judith, the TV. Bye for now.